Has it started?
It started. Alright, so this is what I'm doing. I'm answering the students' questions. Now, you can't see yourself, but there is going to be a video right here, but they can see you. You see that green button?
Oh, so they can see us?
They can see you. So what are you going to say? You going to introduce
Hey.
Batty to them?
Nah. No.
What are you going to do, Leo?
Do they know who we are? Do they know who we are?
They know you're little dudes.
They don't know I'm Xavier and I'm your son. They don't know.
Well, they know that you are a little dude. Can you say hi to them real quick?
How do I say hi if I can't see them?
They can see you. Look at the screen. Leo, you want to say
This
hi
is
real quick?
odd.
Hey.
Hey, how about in Spanish? Not in Spanish?
This is odd. Talking
Hold on.
to someone you can't see.
Alright. Guys, let me do this stuff and I'll show you later what you look like, okay? Okay. Split from my office and shut my door.
That's
Okay?
weird. Talking to someone I can't see.
Okay, class. That was my little interruption. No big deal. If you saw me at the end of the last video, part A of this, I had thought that I didn't record. And I got nervous there a little bit. And that's not good. So, the other thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to break these up into smaller chunks because it takes too long to upload them up to YouTube. So there's, especially with the questions video, I'm trying to break that up. So continuing, reinventing your personal brand. Questions. Have any companies tried to rebrand themselves? Of course. If so, have there been more successful companies than failures? No, there's been a lot more failures than successes. For example, when a company that sells breakfast cereal wants to rebrand themselves as a yogurt company. Well, this is more of a line extension, and I wouldn't say that the company is rebranding itself to yogurt. They're extending their brand to yogurt. I wouldn't say that Doritos is rebranding itself by having Dorito taco shells at Taco Bell. You know, I would say that that is a line extension. Rebranding would be Lincoln. You know, we could say that they're trying to rebrand themselves. They're trying to create a new image different than what their image was before. And it's the core image of the brand, not an extension of the brand. How difficult is it for an individual to rebrand themselves? Extremely difficult. As I read in the article, you know, you are known for what you've done in the past. You can't change the past. So what you have to do is create more past that's different than the other past. Okay? So that didn't make that much sense. Let me make up an example. If you're known as a baseball player because the first 15 years of your professional career you became a baseball player, well, it's going to take another 5 or 8 years of you being in an NFL in a broadcast booth for people to think of you something other than a baseball player as a broadcaster. You have to create more history of the new rebranding in order for people to think of you that way. I mean, Miley Cyrus is having a very difficult time rebranding herself because there is too much cute Disney Hannah Montana history out there. So she's creating a lot of new history now, and you may or may not agree with it, but it's being somewhat effective. Is it always possible to have a smooth transition to branding yourself? No, it is mostly not smooth. Mostly not. Can you really tie all of your past to your future brand? Hopefully, you know, you can go forward and not be hung up by your history. You know, I'm proud of my history. I'm proud of what I did in the past, but at the same time, I don't want to rest on any kind of laurels. I need to do new stuff. Because history, something that happened in the past, may not be as relevant in the future. This sounds like advice for someone going to an interview. Does that drive home how important having a social presence is for your job prospects? Well, in the power of weak ties, or the strength of weak ties, you find more jobs prospects if you have a strong social media presence with both strong and weak ties. You know, if you go to anything such as, you know, tons of people have an About Me page, you know, where you're just branded. It's easy to have something like this, and your About Me page is nothing more than a landing page that connects to all your social channels. It helps. It helps. And really, how important is it? Well, it depends on the job and what the job needs. You know, for a lot of people, guess what? It is important. In a lot of job scenarios, yes, it is important. For marketing, it tends to be more important than not. But marketing, being the marketing manager for GE aircraft engines, perhaps not. Maybe being an engineer is more important. When rebranding yourself, how important is the target market, and what is the best way to narrowcast so that you're talking to the right people? Ooh, this is the interesting word in this question. Narrowcast means be very, very specific. Okay? I think LinkedIn is a great way to narrowcast. You can pick exactly who, through LinkedIn Premium, who's going to hear your message. Social gives you the ability to both spray to everyone, but also pick a very finite set of individuals that could hear that message. So I think social is a great way to narrowcast. But if you want to do a grand rebranding, I don't know how narrow you want to be. That's something to think about. This article appears to be talking about how to rebrand a person at the executive level. What kind of things can associate level employees do to rebrand themselves? The same thing that the executive level people do to brand themselves. And what happens is that the executive level people usually have to stick within a smaller band of what they can and cannot do, because they already have a deeper history and they have to stay within that brand. Associate level employees don't have as deep of a history. They have more variability to be able to create what that brand history will be. What kind of things can associate level? You know, webinars would be a fantastic way to rebrand yourselves or help develop a strong brand. Associate level people probably have more time to write for Adweek or Wall Street Journal or do that kinds of stuff in the media. Going to conferences and being a talking head on a panel. What is the best way to share your work, track your record in your new role without risking having your intellectual property stolen? Well, if you're sharing it within internal networks to the corporation, and the intellectual property is part of your work in the corporation, if someone's stealing it, then that's a real problem. But if you're sharing your intellectual property outside the firm, then I guess you shouldn't be surprised that someone's going to take a poke at it, or at least take your idea and improve it and do something else. Use distinguishing characteristics to your advantage, even if they're not strictly relevant to your work. I'm assuming that that's a quote from the article. Should I count Steve Jobs as a fresh example? His art background definitely helped his brand. His iconoclast background, which includes art. But let me do a small tangent. This is one of Steve Jobs' strongest brands. As much as Steve Jobs was a technology guy, He thought, in multiple interviews he's said this as well, that his brand is really about the intersection of technology and liberal arts. It's not technology just for technology's sake. It's technology that has a human component to it. You know, the philosophy, the psychology, the sociology. You know, this is what makes Apple different than most technology firms. There is a lot of technology firms that are technology for technology's sake, or technology, hopefully, it'll be adapted by a wide population, you know. And you do get some big-time successes. You know, we do get Instagram. You know, I think that is something that is very liberal arts technology oriented. But that was an accident. Apple does this strategically. You know, Apple does this strategically. You know, in multiple conversations and interviews with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, Steve Jobs would come back to this. I think, and he would say, I think Apple does a very good job of this, and Microsoft only does a good job of the technology part. In a polite kind of a way. With Miley Cyrus's recently in the news, do you think this is the best way of reinventing her personal brand? In this case, is it wise to reinvent the brand with negative publicity? Is this her way of leveraging her points of difference? Well, call it the a nuclear, an atom bomb version of destroying your past. You know, I hate to say it, but I'm sure her publicists wouldn't necessarily call this negative publicity. They would call it publicity, and thank God they're getting it because it's helped rewriting the news story of Miley. Does she have to do this? You know, I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't think so. And while I'm on all these wonderful tangents, let's see. How long is it going to take me to find this? I guess I'm going to send you this one too. I wrote this in October of 2011, and this is when Lady Gaga was really getting close to her peak, or really at her peak. And I made the argument that she needs to do something the complete opposite of what was expected. Her new album is not doing that well. Little Young Miley, and whether she's doing something right or wrong, is outselling Lady Gaga. Katy Perry's outselling Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga's not doing anything differently than she has been doing in the past. And by not reinventing herself a little bit, there's just not that much interesting there to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that, whether you agree with it or not, that is interesting to watch Miley. Now, please understand that this is an example with an entertainer or Hollywood or celebrity or the music industry or an artist where there's a very fine line between what is negative and positive, you know, or not a fine line. You know, all they need is publicity. But, you know, a lot of other people can't do what Miley did. You can't nuke your history in the past. I don't agree to the whole sledgehammer view of destroying your past. You could do it in better ways. Maybe if the music was just better. How about that? Smarter way to network. Who are some of the key people in your network, and can you give an example of a reciprocal relationship? Woo! Well, I think that's an easy story. In September of 2010, I moved from Boston to Suffolk University to Seton Hall University in New Jersey. It just so happens that the marketing department does a lot of stuff with career services. The main contact for career services was out on maternity leave. They had someone in there filling in, and her name was Amy Blumpkin. Amy, with a spectacular background, Harvard Business School, MBA. She worked at American Express. She worked at Disney. Really, really knew tourism marketing. Amy only worked at Seton Hall for 6 to 9 months. But in 2000, that was 2011 to 2012. From 2012 to 2013, during the next year after that, when Amy wasn't at Seton Hall, I kept that relationship. I mean, Amy was really interesting and sharp. She had questions for me. I had questions for her. One of my strengths was social media. One of her strengths was tourism marketing. And lo and behold, towards the end of 2012, she got the job as the chief marketing officer for the Super Bowl host committee. So how do you think I landed on the social media advisory board for the Super Bowl host committee? It was a reciprocal relationship. I helped Amy out a lot on a couple other things that she was doing in between her Seton Hall job and the Super Bowl job. But, I helped Amy, and Amy kind of helped me. How's that for a story? What is the best way to back away from certain relationships without creating tension or causing problems? The author makes it seem easier than it probably is. Agreed. The author does make it seem easier than it probably is. I guess if you stop watering a relationship, it doesn't grow anymore. I guess if you spend more time with other relationships and you don't keep in touch with someone, you don't know as much to provide that reciprocalness back. There's only so much you can do. The author does make it seem easier than it probably is. Agreed. At what point would you know if you have too many people in your network? I don't think you can have too many people in your network. I really don't think you could have too many people in your network. If I had more time, I'd have more people in my network. But, I like networking. I do it often. And now with social media tools, not only is it easier to do, it helps me manage the network, as opposed to just having this digital Rolodex all the time. I don't know if you could have too many people in your network. I really don't. Because the more people in your network, the more possibilities for reciprocal relationships. Is this a case relevant for people who work in task-oriented environments instead of relationship-oriented? Of course. You work in task-oriented environments, you could be an engineer, but if you have a problem with a math equation, or you have a problem with the materials, how are you going to find the answer to that? You need help. Where are you going to get the help from? You going to look it up in a book, or are you going to ask your buddy? Shouldn't relationships happen more naturally instead of planned? Well, sure. But there's nothing wrong with being strategic. You're trying to tell me part of your relationship with your significant other wasn't planned? Maybe it started off organically at first, and it was kind of fun and organic, and you may have met in a happenstance kind of a way. But pretty soon it became more formal of a relationship, and it was much more of a planned scenario. So, that's the way I would think more along those lines. Does building a great network usually take a few years, or can a person simply pick out a few people that are beneficial to his or her life within a month and focus on those relationships? I think building a great network takes time. I wouldn't say years or months, but it takes time. And more than anything, a great network has both a few really good, tight relationships and plus weaker ties that are outside your network, but someone you still kind of know that can help feed you information that you wouldn't hear otherwise. I understand that networking is more important, but don't you think networking with people who criticize you helps more? Since we tend to avoid people who criticize us, but they often don't give us feedback that helps us a lot. Well, the thing is that I'm not trying to say that you should avoid criticism. But part of networking is reciprocity. Maybe you need someone to criticize you so that you gain knowledge that you can't see from the perspective that you're at the moment. But at the same time, this is still someone you know. in order for them to be part of your network, what are you providing back to the relationship for there to be a relationship in the first place? You know, networking isn't about just picking people that are your best friends. You know, I have a lot of people in my network that I don't know as well personally, but they're in my network. But how does one know what sort of network one should build? Is it people-based or is it career goal-based? Or what are the pointers you can guide a person in the right direction? Well, networking begins with people-based, okay? Because all networking is people. Now, depending on your people could dictate which direction your career goes. You know, my buddy Colin, whose birthday is next week, as a matter of fact, he got his first job out of college. He's an engineer. He got his first job out of college, and he got that one through like the career services department at Rutgers. He's never interviewed for another job that he didn't get with or find out from one of his friends that he used to work with at some other firm. Every job since that first one. So it's people that have influenced his career. You know, sometimes you need to make a career change, and the only way you're going to make a career change is if you have a mentor or a pedagogue that can help you with that career change. What if your company structure is so rigid that you can't reach the people in different departments or levels? This sounds like a non-market oriented firm, and this is obviously not something that I'm a big fan of. Leave the company? I don't know. Do what you can do through LinkedIn or email or a Yammer or some kind of a Twitter scenario. You know, find a way, because unless you find a way, you're not going to be able to get any benefits from those weak ties. Why do the authors feel it is necessary to differentiate between high-performing executives and the most satisfied executives and their different connections? Are there high-performing executives not satisfied? I just think that the author's trying to make a case for diversity. Okay? And you need to hear and gain the knowledge from the high-performing people and also the people that are most satisfied. Because people who are happier may have not made some of the sacrifices that the high-performing people did. And you want to hear both of those stories. I think the author's making a bigger case for diversity more than anything else. Do you think JCPenney can bridge the gap between digital and physical after Johnson's run at the helm? No, I really don't. I really, really don't. I think JCPenney's is in deep, deep, deep trouble. They have not come up with a new plan. They do not have a new CEO that has a vision. And they are nowhere close to where, again, you got to watch this video, where Burberry is. I think JCPenney's is in deep, deep trouble. The author says that technophobic retailers need to start from scratch. Isn't this extremely risky for these established retailers to start over? Is there a less risky approach to upgrade their technology? I agree that it is very, very risky. There has to be, start with a loyalty card program and go from there. Based on your loyalty card information and some kind of Salesforce CRM, start building social into that. And from there, start doing more, level it up. Work your way up the totem pole. But that's essentially starting from scratch. A retailer has to start somewhere. If they have no technology, they're basically starting from scratch. It is stated that building an omni-channel organization requires forming a separate team. Since this new team is, I'm having a hard time with that word, wouldn't issues between this team and the core business teams arise, leading to a lack of cohesion? Well, again, market orientation. If we do not have the strong inter-firm communication, whether it's this team or the other core business teams, if no one's working together or the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, omni-channel stuff is not going to work. It's not going to work. But if you have, everybody on the same page, everybody sharing information, making decisions cross-functionally that benefit everyone at the same time, omni-channel is not a problem. Article says by 2014, which is only 2 months away, almost every mobile phone in the U.S. will be a smartphone. And an estimate 40% of Americans will use tablets. Is this still true? I think this is already true, and this is not true. Smartphone penetration is somewhere in the 70 to 80% range. You can do a quick Google search and find that out. It's not that every mobile phone in the U.S. is a smartphone. A very, very large percentage of them are. 75, 80%, but it's not 95%. It's not 100%. I think this is higher. I think this is much higher. And you will see during this semester, mark my words and think this, you're going to see the Black Friday data. And I remember last year how much iPad was like, or iOS devices were responsible for, I don't know, 85% of all internet shopping on Black Friday from mobile devices. Why is it taking so long for retailers to adapt? Because they still have strong revenue streams doing what they're doing. And they don't have the leaders with the vision to go forward. And what happens is things might be fine now, but 3 years from now when they're in deep trouble, they can't turn on a dime because a retail organization, the employees, the locations, brick and mortar. This is the problem with JCPenney's now. Many people think that they fired Ron Johnson too quickly. It was very painful. I think they gave him 18 months. And he kept saying there'll be more pain before it gets better. He wanted 2 to 3 years for the company to turn around. The board and shareholders did not want to give him that long. So now where are they? Now where are they? They tried to restructure, didn't wait long enough for the restructure, don't have a new restructure, and things were getting bad during the restructure. Now they're getting worse post the firing of the CEO. Now what does JCPenney's going to do? That's why I was so negative here, because I don't see what they're going to do. Why are retailers not creating a division to specifically help with the technology department? Part of the issue is that retailers were not trained or ingrained in technology. They're trained and ingrained in merchandising. They know merchandising really well. Technology they do not. If consumers stop asking for more, would companies ever evolve and change like this? In a market-oriented world, we've said before that customers and competition constantly change. Even if customers ask for it, I think the competitive threats from competition is what make people change more than anything else. Are customers important? Yes, we listen to our customers. But competition, I think most firms pay attention to competition even more. Is this meant that our community stores aren't getting the business? What are your suggestions? Our community stores? You mean local? You mean small business stores aren't getting business? What are your suggestions? My suggestion is for small business to build a brand community. You can have a small store and using social media making it a big deal. There's nothing wrong with having one store and a small physical presence and having a large digital presence and manage multiple stuff through the cloud and social. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Where does the privacy discussion end? How much information is too much to give up? The privacy discussion will never end. It is a monster big deal. And how much information is too much to give up? Well, again, there's a trade-off. We will give up for privacy. We will give up privacy if we see more benefits. You give up your privacy all the time on Facebook because you enjoy the benefits of Facebook. There isn't a better way to keep up with that many people all at once. There isn't a better way for you to get a message to 200 or 300 or 400 people that fast. So you trade off privacy for benefits. As long as there's more benefits, people will keep making that trade-off. Will traditional retailers be able to make the shift to omni-channel mashup? I don't think all will. I don't think all will. I really don't. You know, it requires a radical rethinking, and some, you know, organizational change is a very difficult thing to do. Let's come back to this question when we do our leadership module. Do you see any time or set of circumstances in which all brick and mortar stores will be rendered obsolete? No, I don't. Absolutely not. We like to shop. We like to go to stores. We like to try things on. We like to be impressed and walk into a store and get that emotional feeling of what it's like. Do there need to be as many stores? Perhaps not. But is retailing going away? No. No, absolutely not. How can companies continue to offer free shipping and returns as the cost of shipping increase and prices are generally less on items sold than in stores? The answer is they can't. And just this week, Amazon changed right before the Christmas holidays that a purchase, instead of anything after $25 would be free shipping, now it's $35 in free shipping. Wouldn't be surprised if Amazon Prime went up next as well. Finally, our last article, Getting Brand Communities Right. This was your bonus article. I thank you for spending the time and reading this extra one. The authors state at the end that not all companies can pull off a community strategy. Wholeheartedly agreed. What are some of the factors that would indicate a community strategy would work for a company? I'll give you one, and it's the one that I hinted at already, that if they can't get this one right, they're in deep trouble. This is the first and the most important, and that is their leadership style. If they have a command and control, top-down leadership style, they are not going to be able to pull off a community strategy. It'll be next to impossible. However, if they have a bottom-up leadership strategy, they'll be able to pull off a community strategy. We're going to talk about leadership on November 4th. Hold that thought. What comes first, the brand or the community? Is one way better than the other? I think the brand comes first, because without the brand, then there is no community. You know, you could create more brands once a community is already formed, but how does the community form without an initial brand or a cause? You know, think about Occupy Wall Street. That's not a Fortune 500 brand, but it was a movement. It started off small in Manhattan with a couple hundred people. So Occupy became the brand. The community grew. I don't think you can have the community without a brand first. Are there temporary brand communities that simply arise for one purpose, and that in the end, when that purpose has been met? Or do all brand communities continue to evolve? I think there are multiple brand communities, and some have very short half-lives, some have medium lives, and some are designed to continue all over time. It's getting close to Christmas. My boys love trains. If we talk about Lionel trains, that's a brand community. Oh, yeah. But we can talk about holidays in themselves. Look around. It's Halloween now. We have all these pop-up Halloween stores that are useless for the other 11 months of the year. But for that 1 month in October, they sell their brains out. You know, that's a different kind of a brand community with all this costumes and all this other things. And then we have, you know, the Affordable Care Act that's rolling out with some success or not so success. They're trying to do something now and get it started, but I don't know if what they're doing now is going to be forever and it's going to be something else later. You know? Hey, I'm part of the Super Bowl thing. We're going crazy for like an 8-day event. And then after that, Can it be assumed that all companies have brand communities? No. There are many companies that have no interest whatsoever in brand communities. As a matter of fact, if we talk about authors and books, you know, we have J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. Really loves the fan fiction, and she loves when people keep writing about all her characters. Same thing we can say for Stephanie and the Twilight fans and all that other stuff. But then you have somewhere like Anne Rice that she sues her fans if they start writing about her characters. That the corporation tries to kill the community through legal action. What can a company do if a community starts going against its values? Well, a company is a participant. A company can limit, if there's a brand and the community is using something improper with the brand, they could yank the brand. They could change the name of the brand, you know, possibly. But the thing is, just remember that a company is a participant, but they can't dictate. You know, they can't set terms forever. You know, as soon as you come off and try to tell someone what to do, then are you part of the community or are you a dictator? No one likes dictators. Okay, I think that's it for now. I appreciate your time, and I hope this was helpful.